Hi everyone, I'm Emily. I'm here representing Paul Andrews and the AUK team. I have the absolute pleasure to present the cast of Supermind. We're so proud at AUK to have been able to get this opportunity to work with such amazing people who've really brought these characters to life. So let's welcome Toyah, Julianne, Barnaby and Colin. Hi to all of you.
Hello everybody.
Hello.
I can't wait to learn more about this production. It's been in the works for a while. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Barnaby, who has some questions for all of you. Thank you, Barnaby.
I do. It's exciting. It is exciting, isn't it? But, no, it's not really. I'm just joking. No, it is. I promise. So, yes, I have lots of questions. So, but I'm going to sort of start with the obvious questions. So, Supermind is this parody of a 1930s American sort of melodramatic serial like Batman and the Shadow and the Lone Ranger. But Supermind himself has this ability to read minds for real. So, but he uses it rather cheekily as a bit of a parlor trick, as an act, as a cabaret act. And so it's him, and then it's his manager, Lady Witcombe, played by Toyah, and then we have the evil Professor Vatel, played by Julianne. We do also have Darryl McLean in the cast, who isn't here right now, but he plays a various things. But I'm going to ask the obvious questions, which is I'll go around each of you and say how would you describe your character? So Colin, as you're our lead, how would you describe Art Hardwicke?
Very good question. How would you describe Art Hardwicke? He is he's first of all a superhero. He's not quite sure if he's a superhero. He's slightly conflicted by his talent. And he seems to have two jobs. You know, by night he performs in a cabaret act, reading people's minds, and by day he solves crimes with the help of his wonderful manager, who they have a sort of, I don't know. Toyah, how would you describe our relationship? It's
very one-sided.
You have a little bit of... my manager's not always approving of my pursuits. Let's put it that way. I seem to have a little bit more of a bond with this strange sidekick called Frampton, played by an incredible actor. What is his name?
You're lying. That is a lie. This is why Colin is a good actor, because he's just lied. No, I play Frampton. I should have said that. So I am the subservient little manservant sidekick to Art and to Lady Witcombe, which weirdly I originally did in a very low Cockney Ray Winston voice. When we recorded it, and then realised that didn't work at all, and so elevated my voice to an incredibly high Cockney. So that's the extent of my acting talent, is to change the tone of my voice in things.
Very good.
To make it work. But so Toyah, so you are Lady Witcombe, who manages Art and knows about his superpower. How would you describe the delicious Lady Witcombe?
I absolutely love playing her because she is a complete mask of entitled respectability and upper middle class, whereas deep down she's a sociopath, she's a psychopath, she's greedy, she's totally unreliable, and she would run over or sell her own mother to kind of feed herself and buy a first stole. She is the most wonderful character. And working with Colin playing Art, and Art is so beautiful and articulate and wonderfully protected in his own brilliantness, that these two characters come together and it's like a perfect storm of possibilities of absolute chaos and failure. It's just delicious, and you never know what's coming, but you know it's going to be really bad for everyone. And I think this is the beauty of comedy. The audience know, but we don't.
Toyah, that is a fantastic description. I love it.
It's very good.
I know.
Can I write that down?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think we only truly see ourselves when Julianne comes in with Professor Vatel, who is so open and so honest and so ludicrously nasty. I think she's our mirror.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, Julianne, how would you describe the naughty Professor Vatel?
Well, I was just listening to that description and thinking, that's Fen Vatel. Exactly what you were describing for Daphne. Fen Vatel subtle, nuanced, perhaps. Not. No, I'd say she's perhaps got a chip on her shoulder. She's not got much of a sense of humour, and she's got her little secrets as well. But yeah, very single-minded and a bit nuts in a non-judgmental way, because we all have that.
Yeah.
And typically, of course, looking for world domination, which is always the thing with these evil characters.
Yeah, she definitely is that.
Yes.
Although she is, weirdly, find out, a romantic.
Mm.
She is a romantic, yeah. But she works for the Nazis, so you can't really have a 1930s serial without having Nazis as bad as, and so they are the overlord. So it's sort of leading up to the Second World War, Supermind, and so the Nazis are basically trying to take over America in a very subtle and clever way, which Art Hardwicke and Lady Witcombe have to try and stop. Which is so. I was going to ask. Well, this might be a difficult one, so we might edit this. But
Try it.
So if each of you could possibly do this, how would you describe Supermind in just one sentence? The production itself.
You've read my mind. I would say Supermind, in one sentence, is presenting what could potentially be a set of cliches, but they are completely blown out the water with the originality of the storyline and the unpredictability of the characters.
Well, follow that, Colin and Julianne.
Genre, it's just slightly nodding to other things, but in one sentence, first thing I thought of when I first read it was, it's Indiana Jones meets a lower low. It's got the innuendo of a lower low, which I always love, and it's got the typical Indiana Jones kind of B movie. Those of us who can remember Saturday morning at the movies, when you used to have those B movies, which always ended on a cliffhanger, it's got that built in, and of course it's got the Nazis, which is where I think of Indiana Jones, but it's got that kind of lovely adventure feel to it that, every episode will end on a cliffhanger, and what's going to happen next, but then it's mixed with this lovely comedy. So yes, if you wanted it in one sentence, I would say Indiana Jones meets a lower low. There you are.
That's very good. Julianne, have you got one as well?
Rather than saying what it's about, I'd say Supermind is just ridiculous, funny, innuendo filled, and extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for the time that we're in now, it's just the sort of thing. When I'm doing chores around the house, I want to listen to funny things on my headphones, and this is perfect. So, there you go. That's not about Supermind, but yeah.
That's everything. That's just no. That's I think it's hopefully. Well, that's very nice of you all to say, having co-written it with Nick Ford, who very kindly came on board after I sent him my little treatment and said, "This is what I'd like to do." It's lovely to hear you explain it exactly how I expected it to be explained. No, I don't know. No, I had no idea what you were going to say.
What about Frampton? Why don't you? What about your character?
Oh well, yes, Frampton's just he's a Cockney. Well, what I love about Frampton, and was my original idea, was that he would be that typical Cockney sidekick who would normally be expected to do the fisticuffs and the fighting, and he's absolutely terrified of fighting, and he's basically a coward. And so, although he should be protecting Art Hardwicke and Lady Witcombe, invariably they are protecting him, and he is like a little hanger-on. It's he's just very scared of everything, and that happens to be in the middle of everything. So it's rather lovely. Yes, Colin.
But can we ask you a question? Where did the idea first come from in your head? It
was from a one joke idea of, I just love the fact that, because I've been doing live radio shows on stage, and I was trying to think of one that would be in a 1930s, so we could all dress up in 1930s clothes and all that sort of thing and look like a proper thing. But I couldn't get the idea out of my head of what would be the worst thing to have on a radio show, which would be to have a superpower where you didn't say anything. So his mind thing would literally be him for 30 seconds being quiet. And I thought it'd be very funny. It didn't sort of work out that way when we wrote the audio, but I just thought that initial idea of that, having the superpower, which didn't work on radio, was quite good. And so then I developed it as a stage thing. And then when the pandemic arrived, I thought, well, this would work actually as a proper audio anyway. So we wrote it very quickly, and very kindly, you guys came on board, because we had that weird thing of hearing people's voices in our head as we were writing. So, and it's very rare. Sorry, Toyah, yes.
Well, I would like to add that it was very weird, because we had instructions to surround our rooms with duvets and blankets and put ourselves in little dry boxes so that we could all be matched to sound in the same room, which you've done brilliantly. And I will say that the series has had me laughing out loud. To do comedy on radio when you're used to doing it on stage, I think it's translated beautifully, because I've been howling all morning laughing at it, because your editing is so fast and the jokes are so beautifully placed. And you've got to bear in mind that you had all of the actors, all of us, probably in our bathrooms, covered in duvets with a single microphone. And, here we were, we didn't even see our faces sometimes. It's quite incredible that this has been achieved.
Well, I have to give props to Joseph Fox, who did the sound design, who's always been my sound designer, and is just, fortunately, seems to understand the ludicrousness that I send him, and do the magic, which is really good. But that was we have
to give a big shout out to who's written all the gorgeous music, because that is amazing.
Yeah, that's Darren McLean, who's also in the cast but is not with us today.
Right.
He wrote all the music. And it's lovely, evocative music of the time. It properly matches. But
it's also lovely how you've, as Toyah was saying, how funny it is, and I think the humour it's helped by how the music often climaxes that punctuate the gags, and it's part of the dialogue, which is why I love about it.
Yeah, the music and sound effects and the pace and everything, Joseph. It was spot on. I mean, like I was howling listening to it. Everybody will be.
Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't
it?
They
will, I bet.
But I was going to say, because Toyah brought that up about sort of recording in front of a microphone. I know you've all done stuff on stage and obviously in TV and film. About how is there a different technique to audio, or do you still inhabit the characters in the same way, or how did you approach your role on audio? So I'll get something with. Anybody, Colin, or
with what Toyah was saying, I think because the difficulty with this, of course, with the pandemic, is that we're all doing it remotely. So it's a weird one, because obviously in the old days, pre-pandemic, you would often be together in the studio. You're still not. We weren't always, but certainly for radio plays, cartoons, sometimes you'd be all together, but sometimes they put you separately because we've all got busy schedules. So, but at least you're in a studio, and you have a bit of space, and you can kind of get into character. And certainly, I think it always helps us if we try and feel the character while we're on mic. So you try and get into mode, so you capture the feeling of it. And it's always easier if you've got another actor to bounce off. We, of course, when I recorded my sequences, it was with Toyah and Your Good Self. So I could at least see Toyah could see me, and we could sort of try and bounce off each other visually. But it is a different process to actually being in the studio with another actor. So it is a more of a leap for us. But as Toyah said, you've somehow cut it together beautifully, and it feels like we're all together doing it at the same time, which is great.
I found it very heightened in that we really, really had to listen. We couldn't rely totally on visuals. And I found it really lovely. We recorded in order most of the time, and to do the first episode, with Colin and to hear Colin's art really informed me so much of what my character needed to be. The fact that Art was so trusting and so believing in his own future and his own talent, it meant that my character could be so much more devious. And it was really very, very informative to be able or to realise how much I had to listen rather than rely on visuals that we normally do. And also, I mean, anyone watching me, and I don't know about you, Colin, I was gurning all over the place. I mean, I was pulling faces to get pronunciations out and physicalizing words, which you can't do on stage or on camera. It would just be over the top. But because Lady Witcombe is so over the top, that I found my physicality became over the top, even in front of a microphone.
Well, Julianne, who predominantly works voice acting wise, that's a fascinating thing you said, because I've known Julianne for ages, but we haven't actually worked together until this, I think, actually. And so watching her do Professor Van Fatale, she'll tell you herself in a minute, was a bit of a revelation in that how much she moved and how much she acted the part as well. You know, you are sometimes used to seeing actors just stand behind a microphone and just read it out, and they've done it. But to watch the physicality of Julianne, and then obviously Toyah and Colin as well did the same thing. That's what's fascinating, is that because you properly feel the character rather than just, you know, be putting on a funny voice and off you go. So Julianne, I mean, that is something that I remember you saying you learnt to get rid of your inhibition. So how did
I realised, probably doing voiceovers, because I'm always in these four padded walls talking to myself, so I'm kind of used to it. But I think doing voiceovers really helped me lose my inhibitions. As soon as I did, it was, you know, that's when it all really happened. And it's acting, not just voiceovers, isn't it? It's all about the character, not just the voice. And so, but I think with this one, because I played Fen Vatel, followed swiftly by Anastasia, followed swiftly by the other 5 characters. So you were watching me going from to very quickly, weren't you? So,
yeah, you did, Julianne does play every other female character in the series, and there's quite a few of them, which was a remarkable feat, and even one male teenager as well.
Yes.
So that was quite interesting. So Julianne and myself and Darryl McLean punctuate the rest of the series with our repertoire of voices. Mine are I've only got about 5 stock ones, so I just about got away with it. So, but one of the questions I wanted to ask was, because it's quite a long series. It's 10 episodes of 15 minutes, but hopefully, you know, within those 15 minutes, you don't get too bored, because obviously it all goes along at an incredible pace. But is there, or can you think of a sort of favourite moment, not necessarily of your own character, but that you enjoyed within the series itself? I'll go with Julianne first.
Well, there's loads of really good, like, throwaway moments throughout, and it's one of those that you listen to, and it's funny again when you listen to it again, because literally every opportunity there is for a gag, you have put one in. But I really liked the Frampton and Art character dynamic, and the bits where they were on their own in New York, and they came across the Germans, well, the people that had been mind controlled into being German. It's complicated, you have to listen. And then you're controlling his fists, and then vice versa, and you saying, less slapping, and then when you're on the aeroplane, and then he nods off to sleep. It was just nodding off for 17 hours, and then you parachute out. It's just bizarre and bonkers, and that's what makes it so funny. It's great. I love the bits like that.
That is, I love Frampton. Like you, I like the relationship between the two. But that is a great, where Colin as Art is, essentially mind controlling Frampton and making him do the fighting, because he's having to do something else. And Frampton doesn't like fighting, so but suddenly gets this amazing power of being able to slap people and hit people, and it's yeah, no, it's a good moment. Toyah, have you got a moment that you can think of?
I've got quite a few because we laughed a lot while recording it, especially listening to two characters like Professor Veitel, which I'm just totally in love with. There was so much beautiful absurdity and delivered so beautifully. I found myself being a member of the audience as well as an actress while making all 10 episodes. I really love in episode 10 that I get a line that says the Nazis are not going to be a problem in future. I mean, it's just one of the best lines, and I so loved having that line and being able to say it. Oh, they're only Nazis, they're stupid, we'll never hear from them again. I mean, it was just beautifully placed at the very end of the series. But one of my favourite stories within the 10 episodes comes from Hollywood. And I think probably as a group of actors, we know the absurdity of this story. And this is when the American socialite Anastasia Del Rey decides she's going to star as Art in the story of his life, and she's going to drag up. And it's just so absurd and so stupid. And I mean, how many times as actors have we heard these stories when either a very rich relative of a producer or a director suddenly wants to take over the movie? And I loved it. I absolutely loved it because, believe it or not, I think all of us have experienced something that absurd while being paid to act in a movie.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. No, I love Anastasia's journey. is quite amazing.
Yes.
Really, it's one of the. It's like a supporting character, but she has her own arc and everything, so it's rather nice. Colin, have you got a favourite or just a moment that you can think of that you enjoy?
Well, like I said, there's lots of great, because it's so clever. I mean, there's one sequence you'd actually have to remind me which episode, but I love that sequence when he's kind of driving through the streets of New York in his head.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Do you know those things I mean? When it's kind of like very movie-esque, and he's not there, but he is there, and he has to go. I remember when we were recording it, I had to almost sort of kind of close my eyes and imagine that I'm sort of somehow traveling across this huge city, but he's not really, but he is in his head. And then suddenly he has to wake up, but then actually it gets quite serious because he gets a bit disturbed because he's literally there, but he's not there, and then they have to kind of wake him up. And anyway, doing that sequence was kind of fun, and that's kind of probably about as serious as Supermind gets in this show.
It was good.
And then there's that lovely sequence, of course, in the trailer, which is a gag that not many people will probably clock, when he's reading the mind of the man in the audience, the lovely moment when he gets the married man into trouble by what is the actual line, Barnaby?
Yeah,
when he says,
I'm getting you should get that pink dress in Macy's.
That's right. And it's actually for his mistress, and he has to cover up. And there's a little gag at the end when there's a little reference to Hoover. But of course, the play on the fact is, which I had to actually have Barnaby point out to me, that of course J. Edgar Hoover was known for cross-dressing. Not a lot of people know that. And so there's a little bit of a double play there. But it's one of those little gags that you might just miss in the first hearing and catch when you hear it the second time. But it's full of little nuggets like that, which is what we love doing. That's why we love playing the characters. But it is so when you say the favourite moment, it's more for me that I just love the way you've written it, because the gags come so quick, and it's so, the whole rhythm of the when we were doing it, because Toyah and I recorded our sequences together, and there was it's kind of like getting on the bike. There's a kind of rhythm to this script. Everything is very quick and very fast and very you'll know when you hear it, but there's a real pace to the whole thing that just makes the gags come tricky. They come very fast, thick and fast. So you're constantly kind of, as the plot's racing along, there's another gag chucked in. And even to one of my favourite sequences, of course, is your opening and end credits, which always make me laugh with the sort of say, we're in the 1930s, let's take you back to the, in this week's episode of, it's all of that stuff. That I love that kind of world of B-movie, action adventures. So it's full of all of those colours, which I love.
It was that thing of the opening and closing credits is always remembering that whatever radio show was going on, they were always sponsored by some company that was totally alien to the actual thing. Yeah, so I was trying to think of all these different odd companies that could have sponsored Supermind. But I'd take your point about being quick and fast, and we had a very truncated recording schedule just because everybody is very busy. So we actually recorded, especially with Colin and Toyah, in real time essentially. So we had enough time to go through the scripts. I mean, we did have time to jump back and go over things that were, we needed to. But the professionalism of you guys is brilliant, because obviously we hardly did any of that. So you sort of hit the ground running. But how did you feel having to try and get it all done in that sort of short space of time and in sequence, which is sort of rare, I think?
I felt really elated because we were in lockdown, which psychologically is a pretty awful thing for any performer as well as everyone else. And here was this opportunity to suddenly perform 10 episodes of a very brilliant comedy drama. I felt hugely elated. I adored bouncing off Colin. I absolutely loved it. And there was so much to laugh about and to grow with. And I came out of it thinking, we've just recorded 10 episodes in 3 hours, which is, if we weren't in lockdown, would we have done that? I mean, would it have taken 3 days? Who knows? Yeah. But I think it became a very heightened experience for me because I didn't want to let you down. I knew Colin was super busy and that, we had to get it. We had to get it. And it was a very, very rewarding experience because of that.
No, that's what I was amazed by, is that, I mean, it was sort of silly for me to schedule so little time to do, but it's just the time we had because of everybody's availability and everything. But the fact that you did hit the ground running was amazing, and it's lovely. It was nice that you could bounce off each other. I recorded with Julianne, just the two of us, so we sort of played every character as we were going back and forth. But Julianne, I mean, how long do you normally have to do stuff when you get jobs come through for acting wise and voiceover?
It varies. It really varies. I mean, it depends on the director all the time. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, luckily you're very forgiving. But no, we had like if I do an animation, it'll just completely depend how detailed they want to be. I was comparing it to an animation because that's what it felt like. Because it's such an animated script.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, it was brilliant that you could do that, the three of you, because, like I said, we didn't really have a lot of time. So the adrenaline rush of doing it opposite each other and doing it at that speed was, fortunately, worked out very well for this production. But
I'd like to add, Barnaby, you also knew what you wanted. And sometimes as actors, we work with people who don't know what they want. Before Christmas, I spent 4 hours on 5 words on a production, which the variations they were trying never got used. But I think if you're working with people who don't know what they want, that's when time stretches. But you knew what you wanted, and it is a very, very tight and clever script.
I think sometimes you're lucky if, well, I'm certainly lucky if I'm able to produce and direct the thing that I've written, or co-written in this case, because then you've got that shorthand, haven't you, of just, you know exactly. There's no disconnect between the director and the script because you're the chappie that wrote it. So I think it was nice to be able to do that. And I have to say, I mean, casting is essential. And I love casting roles. It's one of my favourite things to do. And often I will write with people's voices in my head and hope that we can get them as we go. But you guys were just astonishingly good at the roles, and it was just instant, and so I didn't really have to do that much because you just hit the ground running and we're all perfect.
I think also, Barnaby, it's testament to your script writing, because I'm sure Toyah felt the same thing. As soon as you read this, I was laughing first page really, and just going,
it sets the tone, doesn't it?
You get the world straight away. You go, oh, this is really clever. It's a great concept. It's very witty, it's very fast-paced, and you just instantly get inside it. And so certainly when I got sent it, I was like, yep, I think I read the first episode and went, yeah, I'll do that. just because I just love the vibe of it. And I think I said to you when I first read it that I could see it as a TV drama, because it's got that visual. You can see it all as you read it, even though it's on the radio. And that's always a great testament to the writing. And then to say, the joy for us is we put down the words, but then we get to hear it back and we hear all the lovely layers of the music, which I think is just because it not only gets the feel of the genre, but as I said, it punctuates the gags and the moods and so on. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a real treat for people to listen to. And as Toyah said, in a pandemic, everyone's been in a weird kind of space, and we probably still are slightly with what's going on in the world. And I know certainly my wife was constantly saying to me in the evenings, can we just put something on that makes me laugh? Because everyone's sick of the news. And often she'd go, can we just watch something that's funny? So I think people still feel that can I just have something that takes me out of this constant, this incessant stuff about the pandemic? Can we have something that just makes us laugh? And this is it. So I think it's a real treat for people.
And
that's lovely.
Before we start the questions, I just wanted to say a bit of a thing for Barnaby. Another thing with your directing is that you made us feel very safe to play and muck about, and that is something that not a lot of directors do. They're too authoritative or too controlling, or they don't know what they want, like Toyah said. So I just wanted to add that in.
Well, it's very nice. I do like just having fun. So essentially, whatever I do,
yes.
I make sure that everybody has fun doing it, because sometimes they can get very stressful, can't they? So it's just nice to have a bit of fun. Well, that's very nice. Thank you. I don't look like I'm glowing red, but I am glowing red now, so it's fine. So as we're at the end of the interview, thank you very much for all taking part. I will let Emily give us the closing spiel for AUK.
Go on, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what Barnaby said. Thank you all. Like it's been, for me as well, just personally, it's been an amazing opportunity to be able to speak to all of you. I'm a creative myself, so it's covered all bits for me. I mean, I can't wait to listen to it now, because I've finally got to know a bit more about it, so it's really exciting, and I know that we can't wait to work with you again in the future. It's just been amazing, so thank you very much.